we have come to the Hyena Den, and it is not active, but not very active. Everybody seems to be having a nice nap. You can see Gwen is lying at the entrance to the hole, and Djuma is the queen of the mound, and she's lying right on top. And then every now and then you'll see a few little ears picking up for the little cubs that are feeding from Gwen herself. Every now and then we see their heads just poking up, but it's all very sedate at the den at the moment. Everybody is taking it very easy. And I was about to rush off from the den because we got a report that Thandi and Tambo we'd just seen, but unfortunately it's in an area where there's no ways we'll get any reception on Chitwa. It's in the Muluwanini drainage line, so there's unfortunately no chance of us being able to show them. So I decided I'd rather spend time with hyenas, and we'll see if we can't see the little cubs playing after their feed. But you can see Gwen obviously is in no mood to move whatsoever, because if you look below her on the mound, you will see that she went to the toilet right where she was lying, and it's all then run down the mound itself. So she's urinated right at the entrance, and that's because she probably didn't feel like moving at all. And so there's now a long wet river that has come down from the entrance hole, which is not the most ladylike thing to have done, but I suppose it is what it is. Who can judge? She's nursing 2 cubs and has had to move around and try and find nutrients for herself as well as to provide nutrients for the cubs. So it's hard work and tiring work, and well, if you're a mom, like I say, we can't judge. Tony, you're wondering if hyenas live in groups or alone? Well, Tony, what you can see here is you can see a low-ranking female that is lying there with 2 cubs that are suckling behind her, and then a cub from a different female. So they live in groups together. They live in what's called clans, and you will find that it is a matriarchal society. So females run the show. They dictate what goes on. Humans like to think that men run the show, but even in our human race, but we all know that that's different. Women actually run what goes on, and it's the same with hyenas. They will have a big, large female that will dictate what goes on, and then you'll find all the females after that, and then the cubs, and then behind the cubs will be all the males. So the males are very low ranking in hyena society, but they do hang around as a clan together. And what you'll find is that there's den sites like this where the young ones are at, and most of the time it's just the mothers that spend time around the den. Every now and then you'll get some of the males that will come in. They're not really welcome, but every now and then they will come and lie close by. And even sometimes some of the females that are not denning will also come towards the mounds. From there, then you'll find at night they all separate and go in different directions as they go and try and find food for themselves and one another. And if they find small carcasses that they can, or small predators that they can chase off their carcasses, they will then readily grab those, and they won't call, they'll just feed off it themselves. But if they come across something large, let's say like a buffalo or a hippo carcass or something like that, then you'll find they'll start to vocalize, and that will bring all the rest of the hyenas in, and they'll then be able to start hustling and grab bits of meat and chase away all of the other predators that might be there. And then they also do hunt themselves, so you'll find that they will try and chase animals as a group together. Now, Kristen, I think I heard right, you're wondering how old Gwen is. I was saying yesterday I think she's about 12 years old or 11 years old. I might be wrong. I think somebody did send me a message saying that she was first seen on the drives in 2007, and she already had young ones. So that would typically mean that she was about a year or maybe 2 years old. And so that is 10 years ago, which would mean that she's 11, 12 years old, or somewhere there would be my estimate. I know some of you are very good at telling us the ages of these hyenas, so maybe some of you can help us out. Crystal or Chris Rogue, you guys know the hyenas well. Michael, you also know them these days, so maybe you can help us out. But I think 11, 12 would be my guess, and hopefully I'm right in that. Now, little Djuma over there, she's a little bit older. She was born in February, March, somewhere around that area. So she's approaching 7 months now. And then the 2 little ones that have just been born, I would say, are no older than 3 weeks. Maybe 4 weeks, approaching 4 weeks, but around that area, so they're still tiny. Now, hopefully with Djuma coming down, she's the one that's just walked down and sat behind Gwen there. Hopefully with her coming down, the little ones will poke their heads up and we'll be able to get a view of them, because for now they seem to be trying to hide away. And it's all too much for Djuma today. She looks tired. I think where she was lying on top of the mound was in too much sun, and she's now come down and found herself a little bit more shade. You also find that sometimes these hyenas get a little bit jealous. If they're not suckling and they see others suckling, then they want to come and try and get in there. But you'll find Gwen will be very protective of her milk. She won't let Djuma suckle from her. Starlight, you're wondering if it's normal for hyenas to lie in their own urine? Well, yes, I've seen them do it many times. They sometimes can be a little bit on the manky side, but they will do it from time to time. It's same as lions. I've seen lions doing it regularly, where they just urinate while they lie there, and it just goes all over each other, and even urinate on each other. So it does happen, and with hyenas you will see it from time to time too. So I actually once watched a hyena drinking water and urinating at the same time while it was drinking from the same puddle. And it was not exactly a large source of water. It was a small puddle on the road, so undoubtedly it drank its own urine, but that's just the way it goes, and I suppose living up to their reputation a little bit when it comes to that. But actually, funny enough, hyenas are a lot cleaner than people think. Everyone kind of looks at them as this dirty animal that steals and is always around rotting meat, but they're actually quite clean animals. They groom themselves a lot. They make sure that they don't have bits of meat all over them, and they actually don't smell. When you sit here at the den sites like we are now, there's no smell coming from them. They don't stink. They are just normal like any of the other animals. Kobe is 15 years old. You want to know if I would sleep with any of the hyenas. Kobe, most certainly not. And the reason why is, one is because you go anywhere near those cubs, I think Gwen will be quite upset with you and certainly wouldn't allow you to sleep with them. But if she did, hypothetically, allow us to go and cuddle up there between all of them, I can guarantee you that you'd be so covered in fleas and little mites and all kinds of other things that you'll be itching for weeks. So I'm no way going to attempt to do that. Certainly don't want to be covered in fleas. I know wild dog dens get absolutely inundated with all kinds of parasites, and I would imagine hyena dens are much the same. So no cuddling of flea-infested hyenas for me, thank you very much. But Kobe, if you're ever out in Africa, you're welcome to try. Brian, you're wondering if hyenas have ever been domesticated and used as guard dogs. Not as far as I know. There is a gang in Nigeria that has a bunch of hyenas that they've domesticated, and they've put them on leashes, and they have these kind of these things over the muzzles over their, what do you call it? Restraints over their muzzles every now and then, and I think it's more just for show than anything else, which is probably quite cruel to those hyenas. I don't think those hyenas are probably treated in the best manner. But other than that, there's really no one that's actually domesticated hyenas for that purpose. At the end of the day, they're a wild animal and really shouldn't be domesticated and shouldn't be used in any way to do guard dog duty or anything like that. They belong out in nature and free. They're sociable animals, so taking one away from its group and using it for your own sort of protection is never the best idea. These animals belong in groups together out in the wild, where they can function as a hyena, which is to scavenge, hunt, do all of those kind of things, and they don't belong in a city or in a house. They're large animals. They don't look that big, but I can tell you when they stand up, they're not small in any shape or form, and they have dietary requirements and all kinds of things that us as people probably just wouldn't be able to give them in a domesticated way. So far better that they are out in the wild, and I certainly hope that anybody thinking of domesticating hyenas immediately banishes that thought process. But you can see they are very sleepy at the moment. There's really no sign of movement. I'm going to try and just move around so we can see the little ones. Andy, you're wondering where the male hyenas live? So, Andy, what you'll find is male hyenas will just find somewhere to lie down in the bush. They often just kind of rest somewhere close by to the dens. I spent a lot of time with the Elephant Plains clan, and those male hyenas used to spend a lot of time just right near the den itself. I'm trying to not decapitate myself as I go through here. Let's see if we can't find the little ones. There we go. There's a little ear poking up. You can see Gwen is woken up a bit as well as we came through. But, oh no, the ears have gone behind there. You can just see them every now and then. There you go. Comes one out of the den. You little guy. Girl. Not sure what you are yet. I don't think we've been able to sex these guys. But the males will just find somewhere to lie under a bush in a shady area. Sometimes they'll come towards the den. Generally, they're met with a rather nasty reception by the adult females. And so they just go and skulk off and lie somewhere close by. Or they just find themselves somewhere random on their patrol during the night and then settle down there for the day. So they are around, and sometimes we will see them here, but it's very seldom. Faisal, you're wondering if male hyenas challenge one another in order to become the more dominant male to then mate with the female, or does the female choose the male when it comes to the mating procedures? Now, Faisal, there will definitely be some interaction between the males in order to establish a dominance. So you'll have a dominant sort of male within the males. So he's not going to be dominant of the hyena clan, but he's dominant of the males that are within that clan. So he will assert himself and try and push the others away. And that process of him doing that and dominating the others will be noticed by the females, and therefore they'll accept him as the male to mate with. And that's how it basically works. Well, here in this particular section, I'm interested to see in the Mara, where the hyena density is so much more, if the females mate with multiple different males in an estrus cycle, much like what we see with our cats. You know, leopard and lions will actively search out different males within their territory. So I would be interested to know, in a system like the Masai Mara, where we've got a lot of hyena, if they're ending up mating with different males all the time. Here in the Sabi Sands, and particularly the Djuma clan, not too many males to choose from, and so they end up just mating with the most dominant of those males that are here. But I wonder if the system would change in a big system like that with lots more animals. Look at these two little cute ones. They are super, super cute. Oh, I wonder if one of them is going to try and climb over Mom. I would imagine if it does try climb over Mom, there's going to be a huge problem. It's because from that side, there's no way that it will be able to hold on, and the next port of call from there is the bottom of the mound, because it's a very steep drop from where Mom is, and certainly it will go tumbling down all the way to the bottom, which won't go down very well, and I'm sure Mom will be quite unimpressed by all of it. But you can see what they're trying to do is almost trying to nudge Mom from the back there to ask her to please roll in a way that they can actually feed, because at the moment they're not able to get any food from the way she's lying. Her teats are the wrong side, and there's nowhere to sit to actually suckle on the side. It's too steep. So they're almost nudging her and pushing her and using their heads to try and roll her back the way she was, so that they can actually feed again. But it's super cute when you just see this little face popping over. What are you doing, you two? Now, I don't know where Ntima's gone. Ntima's also disappeared up to the top of the mound again. She's gone back to her normal place. Come on, Mom, roll over. Little guys are the cutest things in the whole world, and the more that they spend time outside, the more curious they get, and the more that we'll actually see them exploring this environment. And I really hope that these two are going to make it. We've had lots of sort of trials and tribulations of this hyena clan over the last 7 months. There's been a few losses in the cub department and even in the adults by the looks of things. And so it's going to be really nice to just see if these two can just grow up and spend a lot of time, and hopefully they'll use this den for quite a lot longer, and it will become a permanent sort of fixture over the next few weeks or months. And as we watch these two get larger and larger, oh, little one, you're going to end up falling from there. You can see it's now crawled its way onto the back. Just be careful you don't fall over. And the other one seems to be stopping it in some way. Nope. Is that where you're going to sleep, little one? Have you found yourself the best pillow ever? In the form of Mom? Looks like it. Looks like it's decided this is where I'm going to lie down. But first I want to bite Mom's leg and make sure that she knows I'm here. These things are just so cute. You can see they look around, especially when the wind blows, they're a little bit more wary of what's going on. So they know that if there's certain sounds that they must go scurrying back into the den. So when the wind blows a little bit, we hear a lot of leaves rustling and movement of trees, and they just get a little bit nervous of all of it. So quite interesting to kind of see the way they're working out their environment. Remember, their time outside of the den has not been long. They probably have only been out of the den actually moving around for the last sort of week and a half. So Kristen, you're wondering if hyenas have a better success rate in raising cubs than what other predators do. Kristen, it's hard to say. You know, at the end of the day, it's very reliant on the number. Oopsie, this is not going to end well. I feel like there's going to be a bum going over front legs and down the slope any minute now. It depends on other predators that are around. It depends on the number of the clan and how well the clan can protect their particular area and protect the little ones from, you know, other predators and things like that, as well as to be able to provide food and to be able to get the nutrients that can then be passed down onto the little cubs. So I think it's a very dependent situation on the area. We know that here at Djuma, this particular clan has not really grown too much over the last little bit. They've sort of stagnated slightly, and we've had a number of cubs being lost, as well as we know 2 hyenas have been killed this year. One in Buffelshoek and one on Little Gowrie. We don't know exactly who they are, but we are pretty sure that they're from this clan. So it means that they've lost a few, and that then means that raising of cubs seems to be quite difficult for this particular clan. The contrary is very true in the Elephant Plains clan, where they just never seem to lose cubs. They just churn them out, and they seem to just raise them, and they go into sub-adults and even up into adulthood. So I think it depends on the size of the clan. It depends on the number of predators that they're having to deal with. We know last year the Nkuhuma spent a lot of time here, which would have put a lot of pressure on these guys. So in terms of their successfulness, I don't think you can compare it to the cats. The cats have different ways of going about things. Also, hyenas tend to birth a lot quicker than what the cats do. Yeah, their birth intervals are much faster. You know, they're birthing every year and a half as opposed to every sort of 3 to 4 years that the cats are birthing. So it's difficult to compare success rates between them. Like I said, it depends on a lot of external factors and a lot of other factors within their environment as to whether or not they are a successful clan. But this is just the cutest thing. Watching these two climbing all over their mom has got to be one of the most wonderful things. Yes, little one, what are you doing? No, there's no milk is not going to come from there. It's almost as though they're biting mom in every direction just to see if maybe they can get some milk. What is quite interesting is you can see when a hyena is nursing, because they actually get very swollen teats. It becomes very obvious. So since if you just look behind her leg there, you'll see the teats are quite exposed, and that helps with just sexing of hyenas. Now, Michael, hopefully I've got this question right. There was somebody on the radio, and Chantal speaking, and I was talking, so the brain gets a bit turned around at times. But you were wondering how the hierarchy forms if there's so many different lineages within the clan. Is basically what I got from that question. I think that's about the gist of it. But so what happens with the clans form if there's different lineages? Okay, there we go. Well, clans are generally, so if it's higher ranking females, they 99.9% of the time are absorbed into the clan. There are sometimes cases where there will be a bit of a fight amongst some of the higher ranking females, and some get overthrown and then chased out, and those will then form a different clan altogether. But generally how clans form is that something like the Elephant Plains clan, let's say, the clan gets far too big for the amount of food in the area. They can't sustain such a large clan, and so then you get a split that happens, and that clan then goes off and starts its own section and goes to find its own area and either chases out other hyenas or then keeps moving until it finds a section that it can dominate itself. So that's generally what happens with some of the clans is that they break apart according to resources. So when it gets too difficult to feed all of them, then new ones start to develop in different places. Also, if there's food items in a certain place that attracts certain individuals there, that could then potentially start a clan in that area because they've been able to find a high percentage of food and water. And so it just depends on again, environmental factors as well as the size of the clan itself. These two are just super cute. You can't eat your mom's arm, or leg, should I say. Poor Gwen is just kind of looking at us as if to say, really, kids? Do you have to eat me? Look at that. She's just like... That's a mom that's resigned herself to the fact that she's going to be nibbled on for the next little bit. And now starting to close her eyes a little as well. Shame, my girl. Are you being chewed on? Oh, look at that. Isn't that sweet? Now there's an impala that's just alarm called north of us. I want to hear if it carries on alarm calling. Now, unfortunately, it sounds like there's a few gremlins in the Mara, so you're now going to be stuck with me for the rest of the show, which hopefully you guys don't mind. I'm certainly quite thrilled to be spending it with the hyena cubs, and it's an epic way just to finish our morning, watching these two go about their business and watch them sniff around and carry on. I'm interested to see why this impala is alarm called. It's just sent out one snort. The hyenas don't seem to be too worried, but it could be with this wind. Maybe they're picking up the scent of the hyenas and it's just made it a little bit nervous, and that's why it's given one shout. It hasn't shouted again since, so I don't think it's spotted anything, because if it had seen something like a leopard, that impala would have been releasing lots of snorts rapidly to tell that leopard, I've seen you, stop moving around in this area and try and get out of here, and then it will run away. So I don't think it's seen a predator. I think it's more on the wind that it's picked up something. Oh, here comes Intima. Intima was the one that noticed the impala snort. There we go. Hello, Intima. Look how big she's getting. Her legs are getting so long now. She's really starting to develop quite quickly. It's crazy to think a few months ago she looked just like these two little ones, a little black ball of fur that was very timid and hiding away in the Hyena Den, and now she's this long-legged sub-adult. Vegas Beauty Snob, you're wondering at what age Intima will leave the den. Well, Intima in all likelihood will start venturing away from the den at about, let's say about 9-10 months. She will start her first kind of movements away. She probably already has moved a little bit away from the den. Remember, she's also been moved from the Hyena Den to here, so she's experienced the outside world a little bit. But from about 10 months, they start to move around, and by the time they reach a year, they really are pretty much going all over the place. They will come back to the den and spend time in the den during the day, but at night they're roaming around and checking out what's going on. So normally about a year old. But it sounds like the guys have found one of the Birminghams up in Buffelshoek, so I was just getting an update. It sounds like Tinyo, so we know where he went from yesterday. He must have moved from Buffelshoek Dam straight northwards, and he's right up against the Manyeleti boundary. And earlier I was saying that I'll chat about the Matimba male and the Birmingham male and the Styx Pride on a carcass and sharing all of it. Quite a strange situation. I watched the video, and interesting to see that the Styx Pride and the Birmingham male, and I don't know if it was Nena or Nsuku, one of the two. It looks like possibly Nena in the video, but it's one of the more blonde males of the two. It's not Tinyo or Mfumo, because we know Tinyo is here, and Mfumo has a lot more scarring than that male in the video. But effectively what happened was they killed an animal. I can't remember if it was a buffalo or something like that, and they then went to go and drink. And in the time that they went to go and drink, one of the Matimba males came in and stole the carcass from basically stole the carcass from the Styx Pride. Then the Birmingham males and them came back, and the Styx came back, and there was this kind of little interaction between the two, between all of them, and the Birmingham male rushed in, and then there was a bit of growling and hissing, and really that's where it ended. The Matimba male dominated the carcass, and he ended up feeding, and the Birmingham and the Styx just sat back and watched, and they actually lay quite close to him, which is really very odd. And I think it's possibly to do with the fact that that Birmingham male was on his own, that he wasn't more aggressive towards that Matimba male and wasn't trying to push him out. Maybe he realized one-on-one they're quite evenly matched and was just happy to sit there and growl at one another and not risk injury. That's what I think has happened. Maybe he also remembers those Matimba males from a time back and knows that they are a powerful coalition. There might have been another one somewhere around there, because he knows there might have been two at one point, and so it could have been a situation where he's just worried about getting into too much of a physical battle on his own, knowing that the Styx Pride is not going to defend him in any way. You won't find the females jumping into a male fight because they don't want to risk injuries and certainly don't want to risk their cubs. The interesting part about it that I found was that the Styx didn't move away too quickly. And the cubs were quite curious, and they went up towards this Matimba male, and he was fairly tolerant of them, which is really strange. You'd think that a male that didn't father cubs would try and push them out and chase them, but for some reason they didn't. And it's a really odd situation. It's not one that I've seen too often. It's very, very seldom you'll see a male lion that doesn't father cubs being very sort of polite and decent towards cubs and not really going after them in any way and killing them. Maybe it's because the Matimbas have become a little bit more nomadic, that they're not really trying to mate because they know that's going to draw attention to them, and that's why they haven't killed those cubs in a takeover. But it is a very strange sighting, and one that I'm sure will be discussed many times. Hopefully, though, the Styx cubs do get away from there and there's no damage done between the males fighting or going after each other. You never know. Sometimes it can reach a fever pitch, and it would be interesting to know what happens today as to whether or not those two have still followed one another, or if they've split apart and the Birmingham male is now still with the Styx and the Matimba male has moved on, or if they're still hanging around one another. It certainly will be interesting what happened during the night. Right, our Hyena Den is still very sedate at the moment, so I think we're going to leave them, and there is another vehicle that wants to head in this direction, so we're going to probably leave our hyenas and let them enjoy their snooze in this morning sun. The sun is now up, it's nice and